Hey YouTube, I'm Mrs. Dr. Lupo.
And I'm Sam, and today we're chatting with Dr. Molly Lupo about her program, The 4 M's.
She's my sister-in-law and she's amazing and super smart. But if you guys want to catch us live every Friday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific.
And if you would like more magical content, make sure you like and subscribe over here.
Okay, bye. We're here.
Magic.
Magic. Well, not yet. We haven't shown up yet. We're
it's
not teleporting. What's like the magic thing when is it like it's apparate, right?
Yeah, apparating.
Let's apparate, okay?
All right, ready? 3, 2, oh, okay.
Oh, I just apparated.
3, 2, 1. That's surprising.
We did it.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. This is episode 9.
It doesn't feel like Friday.
No,
it's
honestly.
February, though.
Is it? Oh my gosh, it's February.
Isn't that hilarious that January spanned over 6 weeks? Granted, like it was only 2 days or something in the first week and like 1 day in the last week, but it spanned across 6 weeks. And that's a lot for a month.
You know what? January felt like a few months in one.
Yeah, you know how in 2020 we were like, it's March 256th or whatever. Now it's like January 192.
We're just moving on.
Is that even worse? Is it worse?
I would say so.
You know, last year we were perpetually stuck in March. March, at least you get like some rain and sun, but now we're stuck in January.
Well, I mean, unless you're in Southern California like I am, it's nice 70s today. Beautiful.
Shut up. You want to know what it's going to be like tomorrow? High of 6 degrees.
Blessed be. Send it my way. I'll take it gladly.
Lots of snow and wind and cold and gross and yeah.
Ugh, my favorite.
No, how was your week?
Terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Everybody do a little snug hug for Sam that she had a bad week and we want to give her all the love.
I did. It's nothing that I want to talk about on the show, but I definitely had a really hard week. And there was not much to the week aside from me laying in bed. And honestly, that's okay. I needed it. And it was important to me. So, aside from my bad week, it's slowly getting better today, so far a good day, and I will take that as a win. How was your week?
A lot of cool stuff that I can't talk about, but also a lot of just chill, I guess. My week was kind of the opposite of yours. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good. Like I'm not like I can't talk about my happiness because I don't want her to feel bad or anything like that.
That's why
I don't know if you guys saw on Monday, Ben was able to interview Jared Isaacman, who is the commander and benefactor for the first civilian flight into space.
So cool.
And halfway through the interview, I get a message that was like, so they really like him.
Really?
Can we do more?
Big.
And I was like, yes, we can.
Yeah, sign me up. Does a bear poop in the woods? The answer is yes. Come on.
We are at your every beck and call for this. Granted, like, Ben's not going into space, but he's always wanted to be an astronaut. He was told when he was younger that he was always going to be too tall, so he would never be able to go into space.
Really? I didn't know there was a height limit.
Yeah, there's apparently a certain height and weight limit that you have to be, and Ben being almost 6'4" is a little difficult for it.
I guess it makes sense because of like the pod that they have to fit into. Yeah.
Yep. And so he was told when he's younger, and so like he kind of just ditched that dream because they kept putting him when he would go to like a field trip, they wouldn't let him go into the pretend capsule. He had to be in the command center because he was too tall, and he was just like wah, wah.
Dang.
And then when we first started dating, or when our second anniversary, I got him a telescope. And I was like, this is as close as I can get you to space. So here you go, kind of thing. And he cried, and it was so romantic and all that kind of stuff. But now if I can actually get him to SpaceX and
let's do it.
Touch a rocket, let's go.
But that would be so big.
Right?
Like really, really big. Yeah, that'd be huge.
They like every single PR team starts big and then you work your way backwards. But so their big dreams are very big. And we're trying to do everything we possibly can to make them happen in the biggest way possible.
Good.
It's it's very far fetched because these are people that don't know a lot about tech, and so they're like, "Can we do this?" We're like,
We'll have to find out.
"Maybe." It would be the
We put our
first of
brains
its kind,
together.
but sure. But yeah, that was, I think, the high of our week was that, and just a lot of projects that I keep talking about, but nothing in specifics are still moving forward. We have some projects in our personal life that are moving forward that are pretty great too. And yeah, it just
Aw.
and tonight we get to go over to my brother-in-law's house and have some dinner with him, his
Ooh.
wife, and
You know what
Charlie's
they're
gonna
making?
stay the night at grandma's, and the end.
That's a good week. And honestly, I get so much joy out of hearing about your good week. So thank you for sharing that. Oh, that's so exciting. What the heck? We love good energy. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, 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 yeah. But
Oh, wait. I have a question.
yeah,
Did you finish your men's game?
I did. I did not take the
Good.
pictures because
Okay.
at the end I was just like, I have to get like 150
What?
items. So I was just chucking left and right, and I still have some other stuff.
Good.
I went on Lara on Fire TV's, if she's in chat. I went on her
I
show on
saw.
Wednesday to talk to her, and we were talking about minimalism a little bit, and I brought up my camping tent, and I decided I'm going to keep my camping tent that I've had for 10 years and have never opened
Years.
one more summer to see if I can take Charlie out back, and if he enjoys it, then I'll actively just take him camping because Ben hates sleeping on the ground camping. And then I was like, yeah, I have other stuff that I just hold on to, like my big, as tall as me backpack when I used to rock climb and go live in Yosemite all the time and hike, that I haven't used since the month after I started dating Ben 13 years ago.
Holy heck.
So as someone that's just like, I'm a minimalist and I'm holding on to something for 13 years, no one's going to go hiking with me. And I don't even think that I can
I
go
would.
hiking in the same aspect that I need that large of a pack anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially with everything that's going on now with you and your health.
Yeah.
That
So
would be
it's just
very
like,
difficult.
so I need to go downstairs and I need to just take it out and I need to go put it in the Goodwill box. Like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be super hard.
Yeah.
But then I have to remember that defined a very specific part of my life. It doesn't necessarily define me now. I can find hiking places around here to go and, still hike and do my thing. Yes, there's hiking in Nebraska. Okay, we live close to bluffs. Those are vertical. We can climb down them.
Have you ever done uh uh climbing, like actual like rock climbing, where you have like the hook and like the rope and you gotta do the thing?
Have we never talked about my life in Yosemite?
I mean, you've mentioned it. I don't think we've talked in detail.
I'll send you pictures.
Please.
Yes. So, do you know what El Capitan is in Yosemite?
Yes.
You find any picture of El Capitan and you look into the bottom right corner of it. So, like a picture facing straight onto it. You look in the bottom right corner, you will see a little archway and then a
Okay.
line that's kind of like cut out into there. It's a ledge that it's about 2 feet wide, and there is a hook on top of that archway that you rope yourself up and it's called the swing. You literally swing out over the valley. Nobody knows who puts the rope up. Just the local climbers check on it once a year. And yeah, I've done that a few times. I've climbed a 6 pitch mountain. So a pitch is roughly 100 feet. And most of it was a run out, super slick, not a lot of things to grab a hold on. That was also the first time that I got high and there was a forest fire coming over the ridge and it was dark. And I was like bawling the whole entire time going down the mountain. So, yeah, I didn't do a lot of, it's called trad or sport climbing. I didn't do a lot of that. I was more bouldering. So like 20 feet and below with no ropes.
That's cool though.
Yeah. So also, I can't believe we've never shown
Yeah,
you
show me
pictures.
photos. Yeah. Oh my gosh, fake friendship. Get out of here.
Do you want to see the picture of my hands completely bloody? Because I have plenty of those.
You know that gore doesn't bother me, and I'm absolutely attracted to it, so
Perfect.
please.
Because you can't put band-aids over that. So you know what you do is you take your climbing chalk and you shove it into your sores to make the bleed.
Gotta coagulate it. Yep. Oh my
Because you can't put band-aids because then the band-aid slips and your finger slips. So
I need to see this.
I don't know. Maybe next week we'll start with a slideshow of all my bloody
Prepare your
hands.
stomachs if you can't handle it.
All right. So we have a guest today.
We do.
Our second guest. Third time having a guest, but our second guest.
Mhm.
We have been talking about, since Sam and I even began talking about this show, having this next guest on.
I'm excited.
Yeah, which is very exciting. The best part is this is my sister-in-law, so it's super cool that we have somebody very cool in the family. And she's a Dr. Lupo as well, which is very, very neat. So that way we have 3 Dr. Lupos in our immediate family. My father-in-law, when he was alive, he had a doctorate in psychology, and he taught at a school. And then we have Ben, who he's the imaginary Dome Shot University doctorate of blapping faces doctor. And then now we have my sister-in-law, who is a Dr. Molly Lupo. She has a doctorate of nursing practice, and she is a nurse practitioner. She's a certified health and wellness coach, certified nutrition coach, and lifestyle medicine training. So she does it all. And let's do a little magic. Bring her in. Hello.
Hi.
What an introduction, all the doctors.
Yeah, that was fun.
So yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I did your little, long list of things, but if you want to trying to read that off, I was like, you've done, I remember just
It is a mouthful.
every single time that you're like, I did something. I'm gonna go get something else. I'm gonna go do something else.
Might as well.
Why do you like school so much?
Oh, I don't know, but here we are.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you do and how you got to where you are, your family,
Yeah.
etc.
So, like Sam said, I am a sister-in-law. So I'm married to one of Ben's brothers, and we have 3 kids. James is 5, Claire's 3, and Mary was just born in May. So we're definitely busy, but so that's kind of the home life side. And then the work side is that I'm a nurse practitioner. And I recently left my academic medicine job, mostly because I felt like we could do a better job taking care of people than what the current primary care model looks like. So that's part of what fuels all the extra certificates is like, we honestly do not get much training on nutrition or anything like that in school. For sure not health coaching. And I think that they're really important pillars to bring in and help people and patients and clients and whoever you are, partnering with them in a way that we're intertwining the lifestyle medicine pillars with the health coaching and nutrition piece. I think that they're all important. And I think someone being able to partner with their primary care provider and kind of choose the things that they want to work on versus the old or like the current tradition where people go and the doctor or whoever it is says, you need to lose weight and then come back in 3 months and see me. And then there's no support in between. And I just think we can do things better. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I think that's the cool part about it is that you're trying to encompass the whole lifestyle versus just treating the symptoms. So you're trying to prevent them, which I mean, I've gone through a few doctors and everything where I was just kind of like a number, and they took some blood and did a test and moved me on to the next thing. And I never got answers. Yeah. So I like that, you actually are there to support them. Yeah, you're there. Yeah. You're there.
Yeah.
Imagine being there as a doctor.
Yeah, and I think so many people who get into nursing in the first place is people go to nursing school because they want to help people. That's probably like the number one reason that you'll hear someone if someone's asked like why did you become a nurse? Oh, because I wanted to help and take care of people. And so when I made that transition to nurse practitioner, like that still carried with me. But I just really feel like we have sort of a nurturing component to us where like we really want to make sure that people are well taken care of and finding a way to do it in a supportive way where people feel like they are in control of their health, I think is the most powerful piece that we can give them.
Yeah, I've
I
almost
get that.
always seen nurse practitioners over. For most of the time, it's because they're more available than
Yeah.
like being in
Yeah.
the super long line. But I always enjoy seeing nurse practitioners usually over seeing doctors because they do have that kind of nursing bedside manner a little bit
Yeah.
more.
My
Yeah.
PCP, I think I've seen him twice in the last 6 years. I always see the nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
And
And I think there's a time and place for, the physicians in the world. And but there are like conditions that we can manage as nurse practitioners. And I think the other thing is just knowing when something is like out of our scope or whatever, we can always refer you back to the primary care physician or even like specialty practice.
yeah.
So we all just kind of like integrate and work together.
Yeah.
Good. I like
Yay.
that.
So about has it even been a year since you and I started talking about your jumping out on your own? It hasn't, has it?
Nope, I just started on my own in October.
And we were
Wow.
talking about it in like end of
Yeah.
summer, right?
We've like the collective have been trying to get me to come over to kind of like be on my own or whatever for the past couple of years. And the timing wasn't quite right, but in May I finished my doctorate and had the baby and did all the things. And it just kind of seemed like a natural transition. I wanted something more flexible with my family. I wanted to be able to be at home when I needed to be, and not have like such a rigid sort of schedule.
So when you and I started talking about being on Instagram and creating this Instagram community, which if you guys do exclamation point guest, you'll be able to go to Molly's Instagram account. And on there, you talk about the 4 M's. And this is something that you've created in based off of your own lifestyle. But can you explain to us what they all stand for? And then we'll kind of deep dive into each one of them.
Yeah. So I gain a lot of weight when I have children. Part of it's because I throw up like every single day when I'm pregnant. Just feel absolutely terrible. And the only thing that tastes good is grilled cheese and French fries.
Mine was always McDonald's cheeseburgers. It's the only thing I
Or
could keep.
McDonald's works sometimes too. It was like the opposite of healthy. And if I did try to eat something healthy, like I would just throw all of it
Blech.
up. It was bad.
Did you have hyperemesis?
I would say yes, but since I could like keep food down, like the cheeseburgers and French fries, I never had to get like IV fluids or anything, but I for sure was throwing up like almost every day.
Ugh, I tried. It still sucks.
Yeah, it was terrible. But anyways, I gained like 60 to 70 pounds with all my pregnancies. And after I had James, I had done like Beachbody, but like in my 20s, I had like dabbled between Weight Watchers, counting calories, like running super long distances, all the things. And I did Beachbody after I had James. It worked. It was fine. But after I had Claire, so Claire's our middle child, I did macros, and macros is like a way that you count and measure food. But what really changed for me was macros. You understand the food composition. So you understand like what foods have protein, carbs, and fat in them. And then what really changed for me is like one day I just had like this very balanced meal and I was like, oh my God, I feel full. I'm not hungry. I don't have to think about it all the time. And I was like, this is amazing. So I used macros in a way to sort of develop more awareness around foods, versus like when I would have the donut, I would just like be hungry 30 minutes later, And so learning like which foods made me feel good, which foods left me more craving, like all of that was helpful. But then even macros like got to a place where I was like, I don't want to count anything anymore. So that's when the 4Ms were really born, because I started to dig into the work of like, how can I be more mindful with my eating? So the 4Ms stand for macros, or we could switch that out and just call it nutrition, but it doesn't flow as well. Movement, meditation, and mindfulness. And what I found was when I was doing these things daily or most days, I kind of let go of the weight expectation of it all. And I was like, if I take care of myself in this way, then my body's going to like fall wherever it may. And who cares at that point? Because I'm taking really good care of it. And so I just kind of, it became sort of this framework for me to live by every day. And it's kind of like my non-negotiables. Like, I need to do these things, or like mommy's not going to be very nice. So, so it's a constant practice. It's a constant coming back to myself. So yeah, that's how they were born.
So let's kind of dive into each one of them and kind of explain a little bit more and maybe tips that you have. But then at the end, I think we'll kind of go through how you implement them throughout your day as well. So that way people can be like, well, I necessarily can't do this, but maybe I can do that. So let's start with macros. For those people that don't know, can you explain super briefly what macros is and kind of how that is important to just this overall well-being?
Yeah. So macros are different than just like, say, calorie counting or even Weight Watchers, in that you're going to have certain numbers that are going to be the number of grams that you want to eat in a food in a day. So like, you'll have 100 protein grams, 200 carb grams, and I'm just going to make this up, 100 grams of fat. And the way that you, well, I'm trying to like think how to explain this like super quick, but you basically like your numbers are based upon your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure. And your TDEE is composed of everything that you're doing, from movement to the food you eat, to things like walking or even fidgeting. But you're going to take your overall calories, you're going to cut them a little tiny bit, and then you're going to take your macros, which will be like 30% protein, 40% carbs, 30% fat, if we went with those numbers. And then those would translate into grams. So you would have so many of your calories coming from each of those categories. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of intense.
I did it for a little while. For about 2 weeks, I was doing macros and kind of trying to fall in line with that so I could figure out on average how much is of each thing in my life. And anytime that I just really feel like my body is just not happy with what I'm eating, I just go back and do like 3 more days where I'm actually tracking it and being like, I'm probably being a little lax with this over here kind of thing.
It is not hard to overeat carbs and fat grams. People hardly ever eat enough protein. I was
always short on protein.
Always. And so, but once people start eating protein, like enough for their bodies and that sort of thing, they feel full. They don't have to snack as much. I think it does shift the brain and like how you think about food and how you feel around food. So, it is like a process, I think, for people to get there. But meeting people where they're at and just increasing by even 10 grams a day until you're doing that consistently, I think can be helpful.
I appreciate hearing that. I've never heard macros explained. I've always heard of the sentence structure of if it fits my macros.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I did a very good job of explaining it, but
it worked well for me. Somebody who's never had it explained properly, because every time I would go online to read it, I'm just like, yeah, sure. Totally.
What's the average like fat, carb, and protein a person percentage would need a day?
So Just like general recommendations if you have no dietary restrictions, like you eat most of the food groups, that sort of thing. You would do protein around 30%, and then your carbs and fat, you can actually pick which one you like more. So you would do
Carbs.
one of them at 40%, and you would do one of them at 30%.
Interesting.
Okay.
Or you can swap them, it doesn't matter.
Can you swap them like day by day, or do you want to kind of consistently stick with more carbs versus more fat?
I think you could swap them day to day. The difference is, so protein and carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram of food, and fat has 9 calories per gram of food.
Oh, okay.
So if you end up swapping them, you can swap them, I think, but you would still eat underneath your calories number.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how you disperse the calories, it just matters that you eat to them.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
What is like a good average meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Like let's go with dinner. I feel like at the end of the day, everyone's super busy and they just kind of compile stuff together.
Yeah.
What, if you're looking down at your plate for dinner, would you want to see pretty much?
So I've heard a lot of dietitians talk about this. I have kind of my own spin on it, but you want to try to balance it between those protein, carbs, and fats. And some foods are going to have protein and fat. So like meat primarily has protein and fat, unless it's like really lean chicken or something. And then so you could do a protein, chicken, burgers, turkey, like any of those things. And then your carbs will be like your vegetables. So vegetables have carbs, and people are always like, what? But they do. They just have a lot lower carbs than what, primarily like refined carbs have. So doing your plate protein, and then doing half your plate in like non-starchy vegetables, and then adding like a sweet potato in there, rice, regular potatoes, grains. I think all of that's good. But just trying to balance your plate between the protein, carbs, and fat.
I don't have enough veggies at all.
You what?
I don't eat enough veggies. For sure.
Yeah. So so some people, hate vegetables or whatever. Another great option is just to get the frozen like steam packs. Like I think they're just as good, and some of them sometimes have sauces or whatever on them, so they aren't just so bland and like.
Yeah.
We just eat broccoli all the time. Broccoli or carrots are the two vegetables in our house. It used to be green beans, but I can't have green beans anymore. And so I had to like completely switch up what we were making allergic? For years. I have an intolerance to them. They make my stomach super bloated.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I tried testing one like maybe a year ago. I was like, it's been a year of not having green beans. Let's just have a couple. And I had like 4 of them, and I was healing over in bloat pain that evening. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm never touching green beans ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing to keep in mind is like dietitians talk about this all the time, but like making your plate like as colorful as possible. And that's going to help the gut microbiota. And we could go on to a whole nother thing in that. But
we try to do the kind of like covering each of the food groups almost. So we try to have a protein, try to have some kind of like carb or starch thing, some veggies, some fruit, and then we don't have dairy on ours because we can't have dairy. But then Charlie has like milk or cheese or something like that in his. So that's how we usually do each of our meals as we go through and plate our stuff up.
And the way that you can make those meals like more exciting or whatever is you just pair like good sauces with them.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to do macros, like let's not start at grilled chicken, broccoli, and rice every night and get bored of it super quick. Like find the different flavors and the sauces that you like, and pair them with it. Because ultimately you want to find a way to eat that's going to be sustainable. You don't want to find like this cookie cutter plan where someone gave it to you and you white knuckled your way through it, and then by day 5 you've given up and you're binging on everything in sight,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Yeah.
nobody wants to be on a diet,
No.
right?
No.
Like no one's like, I'm so happy being on this diet where
No.
I have to
Love
No.
it.
I love my little colorful containers I need to put my food in. It makes me
Yeah.
so
No.
happy.
I'm
No.
on like kind of a not a diet, but so I'm on Accutane basically, and so I
Oh,
have
yeah.
to take my medicine with my fattiest meals, 2 meals, because I have to take it twice, and my cholesterol just keeps like getting higher and higher. And my doctor's like, "Well, what do you eat for fats?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I have like some dairy, like I'll have some milk or I'll have like avocado and stuff." And she's just like, "You need more." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how much fat do I need?" Because like cholesterol's already getting higher because of the medicine. How do I counteract it with more fat without the cholesterol getting even higher?
Right.
So it's just a mess.
That's
Yeah.
such like a
It's fun.
weird thing to think about.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is this enough fat? But is it good fat? How much fat?
Yeah. Yep.
No fun.
Yep.
All right, so that was macros. Let's go
Yes.
with mindfulness next. And what do you consider mindfulness?
So mindfulness, I think, is just being present in the moment without judgment. So I think it's easier said than done. But what I found in my own life was like, if I did something or if I ate like more than I wanted to, then I was just like constantly beating myself up. And what I really learned kind of from just like digging in and doing the work is like when we beat ourselves up, we are doing ourselves no favors. So, and the other thing that I think is so interesting is our brains, when we're doing that like negative self talk, that inner critic, whatever you're going to call it, they actually shut down in the area of like learning and growth. So, if instead of when something happens, or instead of like when the house is a mess and I start like going into that negative self talk, if instead I start saying, like, what's different here? Like, can we get curious about this? Can we see like why you might feel this way? Is there something that we can do about it right now? That's kind of how mindfulness has helped me. And then another huge piece is just trying to put like limits around being on my phone, and being more present with the family, like when I am around. And but even when that doesn't happen, like being kind to myself and just getting back to it in the next moment. I think that's another big thing is like people will say like, "Oh, well, I blew my diet because I started eating the bag of chips, so I might as well finish them." It's like, no, you can actually just come back to yourself in that very next moment. And one of the best questions is just to ask yourself, like, what do I really need right now? The answer is probably not the chips. The answer is probably something like within, you might need a break, you might need to call a friend, you might need to go for a walk, but like you just need to reset a little bit. And so asking yourself, what is the kindest thing I can do for myself right now, is just a way to check in with yourself.
It's a good way to put it. I've never heard it like that.
Yeah.
What's the kindest thing to do for myself?
Yeah.
We talk
And it's
about
usually not binge in the pantry closet.
right.
Are you sure?
I bored eat more than anything. That's my thing. It's like at night, Charlie's in bed, Ben's working. I'm sitting there with I always try to do a whole bottle of water after Charlie goes to bed before I go to bed.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, now I'm watching Netflix. Now I need some popcorn.
Yeah.
Now I need this. Now I need a bowl of cereal.
Yep.
And it's just like,
moment for you.
yeah. So I found that if I drank tea at night, it was enough to sustain that like palatable feeling. But sometimes when I come upstairs, I still just gonna go grab a couple caramels and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, finding what works for you, what like your balance is, and I think that's different for everyone. So like this is not going to be a cookie cutter sort of approach. Like this is really the work of like diving within yourself and seeing like what is it that's going to satisfy me? What is it that's going to make me feel good? And what is it that's worth it to me? Because sometimes like the caramels are worth it.
Yeah.
And then other times you're like, if I eat the caramels, I'm just going to crave more caramels. And I don't want to deal with that mental drama. So maybe right now I'm going to pass because that's what I know I need. So developing There's a quote that's like, there's a space between the stimulus and response, and in between that space is where you can take that pause and you can ask yourself, like, what is it that I really need? Is it the caramels? Maybe it is. But maybe sometimes it's just like, I need to go sleep because I haven't slept. Like Mary did not sleep a couple nights ago, and I was like taking a bath at like 5 p.m. and my mom called me and she was like, why are you in the bath? And I was like, I'm just tired, and I went to bed at like 8 o'clock that night, but it's like what I needed, you know? And I think it's like a moment to moment sort of awareness that you start to build and just keep coming back to yourself. It's not like one day you wake up and you're like mindful as fuck, you know? I don't know if I can cuss in here.
All
But
good.
it is an everyday commitment to yourself. It's an every moment commitment.
Yeah, you see a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I blew my diet. I'll just start again on Monday and it's Friday and stuff like that. And like, why are you giving yourself the opportunity to continue failing for the next, or not even failing? I don't like the idea of failing. You're not living your best life
Yeah.
for the next 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Like, why you keep,
Yeah. And why not find a way for you to eat that is sustainable for you the rest of your life so you don't have to keep starting over on Monday? Like, what do you need to have in your day to day that you're currently restricting that you end up going so off the deep end for? And digging in and doing that work is important too.
Right. I like that everything about this is it's not like drill sergeant kind of thing. Like
No.
totally ebbs and flows with your lifestyle. And it seems like somebody that if they do all the hard work at the beginning of this, then it just becomes their life. And that's something we've been talking about, intentional living and mindfulness and stuff like that this whole entire last month. Just with kind of like our 2021 prep. And we talked about how we don't like resolutions and we don't like goals, but we like habits. We like the idea of habits more than anything. Because then it's not just a temporary thing. Because then eventually you don't have to think about it.
Yeah. And I think, I think there's a time and place for goals and that sort of thing. And that's like kind of that space before they become habit and, checking in on them every week, because I have patients who tell me, because part of health coaching is like we do set goals, but we have an overall sort of wellness vision that they think about and they create themselves. And once they've been doing it for a couple of months, they're like, I don't even have to think about this goal anymore because I just do this every day at this time or whatever. And so I think habits are so powerful and help people like stay consistent with themselves.
Sure. One thing that we hear a lot of people talk about needing help with and being consistent with is movement. Our next M. So what do you, obviously that one is a little bit self-explanatory, but what do you find, or what level of movement do you find worthy to be part of this program?
So I feel like people never know if they're doing enough, if they're not doing enough, what is enough. And there's recommendations within the national like sports medicine organizations, and it's 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week. And what that means is like if you were like running next to me, you wouldn't be able to like carry on conversation with me, right? But I have people who come to me who are like, I'm not exercising at all right now. And so it's so important to just meet yourself where you are, because if I tell you, well, you need to go work out 150 minutes this week and you're doing 0, I'm like setting you up for failure. If I say, okay, what do you think you could do this week? And what would actually be attainable for you? So like, let's not make these pie in the sky goals. Let's make like little stretch goals to get you to that bigger one. So if someone's not moving at all, like, can you go for a 10-minute walk 3 times this week? Put a podcast on, like listen to something, listen to music. But I think like gradually working yourself up to that. And then, I'm a huge advocate for strength training. Building the lean muscle is so important for our metabolic health, as well as just because we start losing our muscle as we age. And then I love things like yoga and stretching, because it just gets you back into your body when the inner critic is going off, or when you feel like you're going down the negative self-talk sort of way. So I think finding a balance that works for you and what you like. I heard a Stanford scientist talk about exercise once, and I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks of 30 minutes a day is how long it takes for someone to actually get into the habit and enjoy exercise. And so
Really?
in those 6 to 8 weeks, people are like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But then after those 6 to 8 weeks, if they took away their exercise, their quality of life went down. They scored lower. And exercise, the other big thing is I hear psychologists talk about this all the time is like movement is medicine. Like when you move your body, like you get the dopamine hit, you get those new neural pathways are forming. Like it is good for our brains to move our bodies. Sorry, went on a tangent.
No, I mean,
No, it's good.
I think it's, you mentioned strength training and then like running or walking and doing yoga. Fine, Molly, I will work out. Good. I have gone through and found like the one way I like to kind of hit each one of those exercise pockets. So
Yeah.
I don't like running. Running can go kick itself.
Yeah.
I like riding my bike. In the winter, it's obviously very hard. But in the summer, I love getting on my little bike and dragging Charlie in the trailer and speeding around the lake. That's my favorite like cardio thing to do. And I love just lifting heavy stuff. I'm more about form and the reps versus, like hit or anything like that. Yeah. And then I love doing yoga as well for that strength thing. And I know that Sam, you just started doing yoga consistently and finding a lot of benefits from it.
Yeah, because so Molly, I'm a streamer full time. That's my job. And I'm at my desk nearly 12 hours a day, either from streaming or replying to emails or in meetings and things like that. And I was not finding time to do exercise because by the time I was done, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was ready for dinner, hang out with my family, put my son to bed, and bedtime for me.
Yeah.
And I am an early riser. So I'm always awake before my family anyway. And I've always like looked at yoga as if like, it's not enough exercise. Yeah. But I'm already not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I just started it about 2-3 weeks ago, and I already feel a lot better, like both in my movement and stuff. Eventually I'll get more cardio in there, but one baby step at a time.
I think yoga is like one of the greatest strength forms though, because it's all about slow, isolated movements.
Yeah.
And so like, going into a chaturanga, you have to have your form in a certain way to make it, and your whole body is like slowly lying down and everything. And the whole body's being worked, which is like my favorite part of it is that it's not just I'm going to do arms today. Yoga is literally like
a pretzel.
And I think what's so powerful about yoga is that like we live in our heads all of the time, like there's constantly thoughts just like circling through. We ruminate over them. Like if you have any sort of like anxiety, sort of the circle like habit loops, yoga makes us get out of our head because you can't do yoga and like be up there because you have to be in your body being like, I got to focus on this move. And so Sam talking about like how it's slow, really focused movement, it's so good for our brains. And what they've actually found is that people who do yoga, meditation, anything like that, anything that's like more that mindful, slow practice, their prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for like when you're in your sort of decision-making brain, where you're making decisions from a place of like your higher self, so to say, people's prefrontal cortexes like get thicker, they get more gray matter in there. And that is because there's like this connection between the neurons that are firing when you're slowing yourself down. So it helps with anxiety, it helps with stress, it helps like with the entire thing.
That's big awesome. Brain.
Literally big brain.
And they actually find, I mean, that's why mindfulness and yoga and food all kind of go together, because the more you slow down and do those practices, you're actually rewiring your brain. So then your neural pathways are going to start to fire together. That's why they call the brain that's neuroplastic. It can make itself new. And that's how you can break out of like really hard habits that you've done because you're making space for them. You aren't trying to push them away. It's like a whole nother podcast too.
Science is so cool. Like
It
we
really
can all,
is.
we can all agree that like science is the greatest thing ever. It explains everything so perfectly, and everything has a reason and a purpose, and they all link, and the great circle of life.
And I think like having an awareness or like understanding like how it changes things is helpful, because I'm a person like you, Sam, who yoga like feels like not enough, because I just grew up I played sports and everything was so intense all the time. But intensity like has its time and place, but slowing down and just like learning to be present in the moment has as just as equal of a space.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been good. I feel like I also grew up playing sports and everything, and then not doing anything now, and then the pandemic made it worse because I used to cycling, and well, that all closed down, and then I'm just here. What do I do?
Gotta do something.
So yoga has been a good outlet.
Yeah. I think the other thing I want to say about movement is so many times like we're waiting on the motivation to hit us to go move. And I heard a psychologist speak about this the other day, and it's like everyone wants to know, how can I keep myself motivated? And sure, there's like little pockets of like motivation that come to us, right? But the real sort of results you're going to get is just by taking the action. So like learning to listen to the voice in your head that's like, I don't want to work out today, but I know I should. And learning to just like move past that and get into that action step. So the action step actually creates results, and those results are actually going to be what creates your motivation, not the other way around.
Does this sound familiar, everybody?
Not the other way around.
We talked about this recently, didn't we, Sam?
Oh, really?
We talked about discipline.
We talked about that you can't say that you're not motivated. It's not because you're not motivated. It's because you don't have the discipline to push past that lack of motivation.
And even if it's like, I'm going to go do yoga for 5 minutes, or I'm going to go on a 5-minute walk, usually the 5 minutes is enough to get your brain like switched into the gear that you're like, oh, okay, I'll do more than that. But even if it's not more than that, then whatever, you moved your body for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I have my alarm in the morning set to I turned 30 this year, and it's get hot again before 30. And I'm like, yeah, I will. So I get out of bed and I'm like,
there's your discipline.
I love it.
That's awesome. A lot of the movement that we talked about did involve the last M of meditation, but I know you take that a step further. What do you consider meditation?
So I think meditation can be so many different things. And I think that, sort of gone are the days of like just sitting on the pillow and watching your thoughts go by, though certainly that is like a way to do it. But now we have like guided meditation. We have walking meditation. Forest bathing is like becoming super popular, where like we know that if you go out into nature and spend an hour out there, like your brain gets reset. And part of that is like you are engaging all 5 of your senses when you're out there. You're listening, you're seeing, you're hearing, you're smelling. But I think finding ways to practice meditation in the way you like to do them is important. So like I really like I have a Peloton, and they have tons of different meditations on there. They have visualizations, they have guided, they have sleep meditations. Like there's a meditation for everything now. So finding what feels good, what works for you, and then sticking to it and just being committed to it. Meditation is another thing like movement. After 30 days, you have more energy. Your brain starts thinking about things differently. You're not so reactive. You're able to take that space to be mindful of what you really want to be doing.
Isn't there a meditation app or program where they have like actors, like sexy male actor voices doing meditations? There's like a Ryan Gosling one or something like that where you can have him like talk to you through this meditation.
I think it's the Calm app.
Is it? Okay, there's one of them where it's like a lot of actors and actresses.
Yeah, there's like a Matthew McConaughey one on there, I think.
If he doesn't end with all right, I would be so mad.
Another actually,
Calm. Okay, I use Headspace when when I would do my guided meditations, I would use Headspace, but I heard a lot of good things about Calm as well.
Yeah. Another, I really like Tara Brock. She has a podcast, but she has meditations weaved into like her spiritual teachings. She also has a book called Radical Acceptance, all about mindfulness. It's really good. I love her. So
So is that the kind of meditations that you do? Do you do guided meditations or?
I kind of like an array of them. So there's like a loving kindness meditation where you think about like who in your like immediate like circle you want to send loving kindness to. Who is someone that you struggle with? You send loving kindness to them. Who's someone you want to wish well. Like I love those.